Hello, folks. Um, Now, in this module, we're going to be going back to the relationship between money demand and aggregate demand, actually. They're related concepts, and prices. Now, you may remember that previously we talked about uh, money and prices in a long run context. And we used what we like to call the equation of exchange or the quantity theory. And we said that, well, let's suppose that a central bank increases the supply of money. It's essentially putting more money into people's pockets, perhaps through the banking system, and that is stimulating demand. And what we said was that because that money increase had no real effects, it had no change on velocity in the long run, and it had no change on our productive capabilities in the long run. What we would see using that equation of exchange was that we would have an equiproportionate increase between money and prices, so that if the money supply went up by, let's say, 5%, prices would go up by 5%. And that would be the end of the story. But we did stress, we did caution that that is a long-run relationship, and where we're going to need to refine that relationship to sort of get a short-run analysis, and that's what we're going to do. Now, I want to put another cautionary note. We're going to do this sort of in a step-by-step process with you, and it's all going to be in this module. So we're going to start you off with a very, very simple version. Let's call it an introductory or starter version of what we call the short-run aggregate supply. And the idea is that in the very, very short run, all prices are going to be fixed. Nothing will change, but ultimately the prices will gradually adjust, and the economy will converge back to the prediction that we got from the classical quantity theory model. If you need a nice write-up on this, Mankiw does a superb job, 9th edition, page 296 to 305. So the idea of this tool is to supplement his write-up. So let's go to that tool. So you can see here that we have potential output here. This is, I should say, on the horizontal axis. This is aggregate supply and aggregate demand, and we'll think of this as billions of US dollars. It's a little bit dated because now we're about 17 trillion, not 13 trillion, but we've grown since then. And then here's the price level, and we've reviewed that in previous modules. We've also introduced the idea of aggregate demand, and this is, okay, so aggregate demand slopes downwards in price and output space. And the idea is that if the price level is very, very high, our money balances aren't worth as much and we demand less. And then if the price level were to be lower, our money balances would be worth more and we would demand more. Okay, that's why we have a downward sloping, that's one of the reasons why we have a downward sloping aggregate demand curve. Okay, so, and as I said, in the long run, okay, potential output is invariant to the price. It does not change with the price, and that is one way that we looked at your classical model back in our previous analysis. Now, but it turns out that the idea is that in the very, very short run, we can think about an increase in demand, and that increase in demand, we're going to be seeing that in a second. Our blue curve will shift here, and the blue curve, if no prices increase, that means that demand, supply will respond according to this short-run red aggregate supply curve, 1-to-1. So we'll have no change in prices if all prices are fixed, and instead supply will accommodate that. So now I'm going, but once again, we want to get you used to thinking that this is only a temporary situation. So the idea here is that we're going to put in a change to the money supply. And let's think of that change of money supply. Let's say it's 5%. And you will see in just a second two things. You will see the outward shift of the demand curve, and then you will see the gradual increase of the price level as firms in the economy adjust their prices the prices that people pay, and also that all the wages adjust as well. So let's put that in, and there you can see that. So you can see that in this initial situation, we have no price adjustment, and instead the amount of supply that the amount the quantity supplied is going to be read right across this initial red flat supply curve with no price adjustments. But then we can think about partial price adjustments along the way. I put this in here as 1/3, 2/3, and complete. And as you can see that if we have more price adjustments, or for example, if we look at this 1/3 price adjustment, we'll have higher prices, but that's also going to squeeze out some demand, because now prices are higher, money balances are worth less. Then over time, we get a little bit more adjustment. You can see this, the 2/3 price adjustment, prices are even higher. At the same time, demand equal to supply, it's at a lower quantity demanded. We're moving up this demand curve here. And then finally, in the long run, when we have complete price adjustments, this is 1-to-1. In this case, so we had 5% increase in money. So you can see that our price level goes up from 1 to 1.05. Okay, we have complete price adjustment. And guess what? We are back at our potential output. Okay, so once again, this is it's a very simple way. The goal here has been for you to visualize how we go from the short run to the long run. And in the long run, our previous theory, the quantity theory of money, holds. Money only affects prices, which means that in the long run, we're back at potential output, but at the same time, in the long run, our prices will go up equiproportionately with our money supply. But you can see that that is a gradual process, and that along the way, we have some short run, in this case, increase in the quantity demanded, but ultimately we walk up this new blue demand curve until we get back, as prices rise, demand is squeezed out, and we get back to potential output. In terms of output, we get back to where we started. Okay, so this was your starter aggregate supply and aggregate demand module. Thank you, or section. Thank you very much.